Welcome to another show of Wealth Builders. My name's Anthony Cangemi, and I want to thank you so much for joining us here this morning. I think we have a great show put together for you, and so we're going to get right into it. But before we do, I'd like to just introduce our fabulous co-host who's been with us now for 10 plus years. We just really couldn't do the show without Tony. So, Tony, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, Anthony. 11 and a half years ago, we started doing the show together. It's been 11 and a half years. Can you
Can you
believe
believe that?
that?
No.
I can't
11
either.
and a half years, man. Where has the time gone?
Time flies when you're having fun, I guess, right?
I guess so. Yeah, Tony. And you know what's great, and of course I've mentioned this a couple times already on our show, but you have the good fortune of speaking and doing the shows with retirement planners all over the country.
Yeah.
And so just that type of a co-host that has that much experience and being able to tap in to so many of really some of the top retirement planners, and you kind of get in that front row seat of
Yes.
all of those folks, planners around the really, you bring a wealth of information and to the show, and we just really appreciate you, man.
Well, thank you. That's nice of you to say, Anthony. And, I have been doing it 11 and a half years. I've recorded over 15,000 radio shows in that time, half
Wow.
hour. Half hour financial shows. So yeah, you get to learn things, and it's helped my wife and I mean, exponentially. And especially your help here on the show is great because you need to work with a financial advisor like yourself, a fiduciary.
Yeah.
And very few of them can match up to you, though, Anthony. You and I have actually, you're the first person I recorded a financial radio show with. You were the
Isn't that
first
something?
person in our program 11 and a half years ago. They asked me, hey, start this financial radio show to help financial advisors across the country. And I'm like, okay. So they hired me, and you were our kind of guinea pig, and you've been doing it. I think you'd started a show on your own, and then we started doing it together. And
Correct.
wow, just every year after that. And it's been so great. And I've been down there to help with your client events
Yeah.
and down there to see you numerous times. You've got a great staff. So it is fun doing the show each week. And I always learn something from you. It's great. You'd think, oh, he's done 15,000 shows. And like you say, it is a great wealth of experience.
It is.
But I always learn something new. And you have a unique approach, which helps with the Wealth Builders show here is great. Talking about accumulation and distribution and transfer of wealth. That's really the foundation, right? Accumulation, distribution, and the transfer of wealth. And you talk about that each and every show. And today is going to be no different. So, Anthony, today you've got a great one lined up, a must-have checklist. And we're going to go over, just to really simplify it, 10 things here that people need to be able to check the box on to have an effective retirement, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a PDF we want to send out to our listeners. So if you'd like to have a copy of this checklist, must-have checklist for effective retirement planning, we can send it to you. You just have to log on to crescentcityretirement.com and ask for the checklist or give our office a call. But yes, we're going to be talking about this checklist, Tony, the must-have checklist for effective retirement planning. We think it's a great top 10 for you. And let me just say, before we get into the checklist and about the 11 and a half years, one of the things that I see and have seen over the many, many years of working with clients is we put plans together, retirement plans together, but as years go by and as either a family's situations might change, their needs might change, or tax implications may change, the markets may change. So I guess what I'm saying is the retirement plans and even this checklist are certainly the foundation of any retirement plan. but that maintenance along the way, that partnership that you have with your retirement planning firm that can meet with you, whether it be quarterly or semi-annually, to maintain that plan and continue that plan, and and ensure that that plan remains relevant along the way, is really can't be under or overstated, rather, is the maintenance of these plans. And so but yes, we're going to be talking about what we think are the top 10 on the retirement planning checklist as it relates to building these plans, Tony.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. And having a written plan in place, a lot of people think they have a plan, but really it's just, oh, I have some investments or I have a 401k. You need a real plan. And it's always good to get a second opinion, even if you think you have a plan in place. Make sure it's up to date, make sure it's current. And all they have to do is give you a call, Anthony. What's the office number there at Crescent
Yeah,
City?
absolutely. So the local number here, 504-828-2171. That's 504-828-2171 is our number here at the office. Or you can visit us online at crescentcityretirement.com.
All right, that sounds great. All right, so let's dig into this checklist. What's the first thing on the checklist people need to be aware of?
Sure. So the first thing on the checklist is determine your retirement goal. In other words, what is going to be your retirement age? What what is the time horizon? This is going to be real important. I mean, are you 5 years away? Are you 10 years away? Are you a year away? So knowing that time horizon has a lot to do with how the plan should be constructed. For those of you that are in retirement, that's also very important, because there's, of course, benchmarks within retirement. How far are you away from your required minimum distributions, those RMDs? So knowing your time horizon, Tony, is so important as it relates to building a retirement plan.
Right. And then probably part of the retirement goals we're talking about, which is the first checkbox, figuring out what your lifestyle is. And I think this is one that a lot of people miss. And they might say, what do you mean lifestyle? You've got your retirement goals. One of those goals has to be, what is my lifestyle going to be? Are you going to travel?
Hmm.
Are you going to downsize? Are
Right.
you going to maintain your current lifestyle and not travel any more than you normally would? A lot of people like to travel in retirement and they have to plan for that cost. A lot of people downsize, and that can calculate into how much money they're going to need for retirement, right?
Absolutely, Tony. So the time horizon is critical. And then you're absolutely right. The income need, and what's that income need going to be? And, we get so caught up in well, what are our expenses, and, what bills we may have, or our expenses, taxes, insurances, and all of this type of thing, which obviously is very important. But you bring up the really the key two words here: lifestyle. So it's not going to be just about the expenses in retirement, bills, and the like. It's also going to be, what kind of fun are we going to have? I mean, what do we enjoy?
Right.
What are our hobbies? Do we want to travel? Do we want to, I have a lot of clients down here. They love to, they're outdoorsmen. They love to fish. They love to hunt. They love, their camps and that sort of thing. Well, all that costs money, right? And so building in not only the time horizon, but also those lifestyle expenses, budgeting the expenses, but then also what's the retirement lifestyle going to look like, and making sure we don't shortchange ourselves, if you will. Make sure that we have enough income coming in to support that lifestyle.
Yeah, that's huge. And I know you've helped so many people do that over the years there at Crescent City. So that's number one, how to determine your retirement goals. In other words, your time horizon or age, when you're going to retire. your lifestyle, and you mentioned expenses. Obviously, that's important. And that's kind of a no-brainer. You got to figure out how much it costs you to live, what your bills are going to be. And to do that, number two probably comes into play. What's number two on the checklist?
Yeah, number two is access current financial situation. So we use, and there's many of these types of platforms out there, but we use this financial overview. It's a platform that really just looks at assets. It looks at retirement assets. It looks at pre-tax money, after-tax money, Roth money. So how things are titled and how things are taxed is real important. So this is an inventory, if you will, of the assets, and primarily the assets that are going to be utilized for retirement income. So when we think about lifestyle and we think about income and retirement, we have to start really putting a list together of what are the income sources going to be in retirement. So in other words, what are the spokes on that wheel? So let's say Social Security is going to be an income source. We want to make sure we maximize that source. We utilize it. We leverage it for all it can be. And as you know, Tony, we use the Social Security maximization report. It's really just a number crunching actuarial report that uses average life expectancy as a benchmark. But we want to make sure we utilize Social Security to its fullest. Then you may have a pension or some kind of defined benefit plan, annuities, IRAs, 401ks, any type of retirement accounts. So what are the spokes on the wheel? What are going to be those pieces of the overall retirement income plan? And that's real important. Number two is accessing your current financial situation. So we want to make sure we have a list of the assets, a list of liabilities, and then again, how those assets primarily are titled and taxed. Real important. When we move into this distribution phase, we are going to be drawing money out of some of these assets. So how they're taxed and how it works together in a tax efficient, if you will, distribution strategy is a big part to an overall, the overall success of a retirement plan.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to have the knowledge behind it to be successful. You could make really costly mistakes. And again, Anthony, that's why it's so important to work with a person like yourself. So for our listeners out there, work with a trusted financial professional. That's a key step as well. But you do have to take a step back and without emotions, or have somebody like yourself, a third party who's going to be able to look at the big picture without emotions and assess your current financial situation. That's really going to dictate whether you have a successful retirement in the future. What's happening right now?
Absolutely.
And what are some things people can do right now? What's another thing on the checklist?
Well, this number three, I tell you, Tony, I really believe this is like one of those no-brainers. And we tell people this all the time. You know, if your company offers you some type of retirement plan, like a 401k or 403b or 457, you know, some type of
Sure.
retirement plan, and they offer some type of matching contribution, whether it be 2%, 4%, 6%. If there's some type of match, we encourage people right away, if they're able to contribute to those retirement plans, to at least be able to maximize the match that the company is providing. This is part of their benefit package. This is
Right.
free money that's being put into their retirement plan that the company is putting in. And so really maximizing those matches. And then on top of that, Tony, any types of IRAs, whether traditional IRA or Roth IRAs, these are also tax advantaged accounts that you can do outside of your company's retirement plan. So utilizing those traditional IRAs or Roth IRAs for your pre-tax dollars. And then, of course, the traditional IRAs, you get the tax break up front. The Roth IRA grows tax-free, and you get the tax benefits when you draw out. So getting into the, idea of which way to go, that's going to depend on the overall plan. But the IRAs, traditional and Roth IRAs, certainly is another piece that can be added to those spokes on the wheel, like your company retirement plan is. And then, of course, you have your after-tax money, other investments that are in taxable accounts that are not tax deferred, like your brokerage accounts, real estate, and any other types of investments, gold, silver. These are other investments that you can invest in with your after-tax dollars. So really understanding what retirement accounts and what accounts are available to you, what the tax implications are, what the matching may be on your retirement plans, on the job. All of this, Tony, you want to take advantage of these accounts to overall enhance, obviously, the retirement.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good to really make sure that you have the proper retirement accounts and are saving correctly. Speaking of that, checkbox number 4 here on this checklist ties right into that, doesn't it? Budget and savings.
Budget and saving is number 4. Emergency funds, ensure you have a sufficient buffer, 3 to 6 months. Consistent savings up to automatic contributions to your retirement accounts. That is, let's say emergency funds, obviously we know, I think it was Dave Ramsey that started that many years ago, and I think he was right. Get rid of all the debt or all the high, especially high interest debt, and then make sure you've built up that emergency slush fund in case there's a period of time where you don't have income coming in, or you might change jobs or something like that.
Right.
So emergency funds are important. They recommend 3 to 6 months of expenses in those emergency funds. As far as consistent savings, setting up automatic contributions back to those retirement accounts that companies offer. What's nice as well is that you can set up this automatic consistent contribution where you don't have to make a decision every week or every 2 weeks or however you get paid to say, well, am I going to save this pay cycle in my retirement? It should be set up automatically. So automatically, whether it's the market's up or market's down, you're putting into your retirement automatically. That's so key. And then increasing savings over time, trying to save a percentage of your income or your earnings. As your earnings increase, you want to look at your savings and see if you can increase the savings and try to keep up with, as you get increases along the way, can you increase a little more of a percentage there going into savings? So it's really just making a decision that you're not going to let a month go by that you're not putting something into your savings for retirement. And the ones that can set this up automatically is really a big help, because it can just be done without you really giving much thought to it. Then on a semi-annual or an annual basis, you can look at the savings rate and see if you can afford to do a little increase as time marches on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's huge. Budget and saving strategies are so important. That's part of your overall financial plan. And tying into that, another item on the list would be investing wisely. And you've touched on this already a bit, but investing is something that you help your clients with, isn't it?
It is. And so as you're putting into your investment accounts, whether it be your IRA, your Roth IRA, your retirement account on the job, or whatever it might be, the question is, how is that money invested? Is it in a balanced portfolio of stocks and bonds? And if it is, what is your risk tolerance, right? So we call this red money and green money, red money being money that's in the market that has more volatility, if you will. Green money being safe money that's not subject to market risk. But let me just say, all red money and all green money is not created equal. And I often say there's different shades of red, right? There are different shades of green, meaning if you have red money in the market and you're in this balanced portfolio, the question is, what is the volatility? What is the risk in that portfolio? You could have on a scale from 0 to 100, your portfolio could be a 25 or a 30, which would be a more conservative risk volatility on that portfolio. You could be in a portfolio that holds a 60 or a 70 on the risk scale. So what I'm saying is, even though these portfolios are in the stock market, there's still levels of risk and volatility. And so making sure that your risk tolerance, your time horizon, and your needs for the income in the future are being supported by the portfolios that are being invested in. One of the quick ways that I think I can make this point is a lot of these retirement accounts have what's called target funds. And so depending on, and it just kind of making this point, depending on when you're going to retire, right? If you're 5 years away and we're in 2025, then a 2030, if you will, target fund presumably is invested appropriately for that 5-year time horizon. If you're 5 years away from retirement and you're, let's say, in a 2040 target fund and you're 5 years away to retirement, then you're probably in a portfolio that is a lot more aggressive for your time horizon. So making sure that the portfolios that you're in are supporting your overall retirement plan is really key there, Tony.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously that's one of the key things, and you've got to invest wisely. So, what's number 6 on the list? What should we talk about next?
Yeah, number 6 is consider healthcare and insurance, healthcare plans, medical coverage, especially when we get to Medicare kicking in, and then of course long-term care, which you and I have talked a lot about, and even a little bit before we started this show. But healthcare planning, Tony, in retirement, I would say really takes on two forms. One would be medical care, right, or Medicare when you're 65. That's your hospitals and your doctors, right? That's, how you receive your health care. And there's many, many choices. There's fee for service. There's these Medicare Advantage plans like HMOs, where you have a network. But nevertheless, that's your medical care. And then the other aspect of healthcare planning is long-term care. And this is the kind of care you would need if you were unable to care for yourself due to an illness or an accident or some type of dementia or senility, where you need additional care, that intermediate and custodial levels of care. We talk a lot about those ADLs, activities of daily living, just regular feeding, dressing, bathing, and the like. There's 6 of them, ADLs, or a cognitive impairment. Somebody needs help with medications. We talked a bit about that before the show. But nevertheless, you can have a cognitive impairment like senility or dementia, Alzheimer's. You could have a physical ailment that's hindering you from doing some of these activities of daily living. And if that's the case, Tony, and I would assume most people have either had a family member or friend or someone that they may have known that needed this type of long-term care. The environments can be at home, they could be in assisted living, or of course the nursing home. And so understanding what these healthcare options are and having plans in place to where, if in the event you get discharged from the hospital and you need to go and convalesce somewhere and recover, either at home, assisted living, or a nursing home, having those types of plans in place and having something, being prepared for that, Tony, is really, really important.
Oh, it's hugely important. So, healthcare is a big one. It's going to be one of the biggest expenses in retirement, correct?
It really is, and it's something that I don't know if we give as much thought to. I will say I liken long-term care a lot like a disability policy. When people are working, they'll have their health insurance, right? Their medical insurance, and then they'll have some type of maybe long or short-term disability policy. And they understand, hey, if I get disabled and I'm not able to work, then this policy is going to help replace some of my income, right? It's going to help replace some of my income that I was making on the job. So, that's pretty well accepted. People understand that. And they understand it's two different policies. It's a health insurance policy and it's a disability policy. Well, in retirement, Medicare and the Medicare planning is your medical policy, your healthcare policy, but it's your long-term care that's not replacing your earned income. What the long-term care strategy is doing, Tony, is protecting your assets in retirement that's generating your income. So it's the same principle. It's just that on the long-term care side, we are protecting assets that are generating income for a person in retirement, and we're also giving choices there so a person can not only protect their assets but frankly remain independent. And that's the other thing. As we get older and we have to start depending on people for this and depending on people for that, especially for people that have been so independent all their lives, it's hard. For any of you that have, had to be involved in telling a parent that, okay, you're not able to drive anymore and taking those keys.
Yep,
I
been
mean,
there, done that. It was tough.
that's a biggie. That's a biggie. And that's what I'm saying. Every little thing that a person was able to do that now, little by little, they're not able to do for themselves anymore, or it's being taken away from them. That's emotional
Yep.
and a psychological issues that they have to work through, and it can be hard for people. So I would just urge our listeners, if you've ever been in that position where you've had to deal with a parent or a loved one, have a little empathy there, because it really is hard, especially for people that have been very independent all their lives, to have to start giving up control of some of the, let's face it, basic things that they were able to do not that long ago.
Yeah, that's great advice. And we were talking a bit about that very thing before the start of the show. Now, we're out of time for today's show. We've got 4 key elements left that we're going to touch on next week. And that'll be a show, again, talking about things for an effective retirement. 4 of the main things we're going to touch on next week. But Anthony, great show. Let our listeners know how they can get a hold of you to set up that no cost, no obligation consultation.
Absolutely. So we'd love to send you this PDF, a copy of the this report that we're speaking about. So you can just simply call us at 504-828-2171. That's 504-828-2171, and let the ladies know that you would like your copy of must-have checklist for the effective for an effective retirement plan. So a checklist for the effective retirement plan. Let us get you that checklist out. This is a great way. People say, I want to get all my ducks in a row. Well, these are those little ducks that you can check through to make sure that you've got all of that taken care of. So call us at 504-828-2171, or just simply visit us online at crescentcityretirement.com.
All right. Sounds great. Thanks, Anthony. And listeners and viewers, thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of Wealth Builders with Anthony Cangemi.